Hello,
Good
welcome
evening.
back to Mess on Music. Uh, Talking about Jethro Tull's Aqualung tonight. Um, Raul is not with us this evening; he is otherwise preoccupied. Uh, Hopefully, we'll get back to us in the next show or whenever we do the next show. Um, but I guess we'll get right into what our thoughts and stuff are. Um, for me, I was introduced to Jethro Tull and to this album beginning of my college years by my friend James. He introduced me to a lot of cool stuff. Black Sabbath. Well, I already knew Black Sabbath, but bands like Danzig and the Misfits and uh, this song, the title track on this was actually the second song that he taught me on guitar, which I have since forgotten how to play. But it's been with me for a lot of years.
Yeah, I've kind of listened to this. I want to say the last time I listened to this album, I was probably in my early 20s. So 20 something, 20 plus years ago. So it's been a while. And I remembered it back then, being a good album and stuff. So it's like, it was good to kind of go back and listen to it and see if it still held up or not.
Yeah,
Unruly, hello, sir.
yeah. I thought the same thing. Because back then, like a lot of stuff, I had albums that were in heavy rotation. This was one of them for a little while. This and I think it was the follow up, "Thick as a Brick," um, and then later I delved into the YouTube when YouTube came around. I delved into uh, checking out some of their other stuff, like their earlier records, which are a bit different than this. It's still Jethro Tull, but it's not. There's a certain heaviness to this album.
Yeah.
I feel.
This is the only album of theirs that I'm even familiar with. So I couldn't even tell you if they're known for any other songs that I know of, off the top of my head than the few that I've heard on the radio from this album.
Bungo in the Jungle is one of them. That's a little later. Um, Thick as a Brick. Then there's the infamous one that they won Best Metal Performance for. I can't remember which one that is. I don't know if that was War Child or what that was, but it seemed a little silly to me.
We'll have to find that one and give that one a listen to. Curiosity's killing me on that one. But I will have to say, I don't know none of the band members' names, but the singer I think he has a kick-ass voice.
Ian Anderson. He is pretty much the lone mainstay in the band all these years. He's been constant since the founding of the band. They've had some other long term guys that have stuck around for. I think Martin Bear, the guitarist, very underrated guitarist, has been with them for quite a while, or he had a very long stint with them. But I had like a compilation, and I know how Unruly feels about compilations, but too bad I have some. But you open it up and it has pictures of all the members, past, present, and all that stuff have been there, and there's been like 30 to 35 people that have come and gone throughout the 50 years, or when that was released, I think it was 35 years or 30 years at the time. Crest of the Knave was the one that they won the medal performance for.
I might have heard some of these other songs. I don't know them by name.
Heavy Horses was another one. Oh, I forgot about me. Mick Abrams went on to form a band called Blodwyn Pig. That was their original guitarist. And I have it's kind of like a blues, like that early 70s blues, heavy blues rock type group. But Martin Bear replaced him. And I think he was, if I'm not mistaken, so he's not currently still in the band, but Martin Barr.
What's up, Kyle?
He was with them from 68 to 2011.
It's a hell of a run.
Yeah. Hey, Kyle. And there was a lot of them that were with them for long stints, but there was a lot more that weren't with them that long. But if I'll share this.
Now, what album release was this for their career?
This was their fourth release.
Okay. Because I did see that it was the drummer's final record that he drummed on before he retired.
Yes, Clive Bunker. It was his final record with them. I don't know. I want to say he was a little older, and I think was one of the reasons that led to him retiring. But I don't quote me on that. But here's the list of that's the current lineup. Now they went on hiatus in 2011, and that was the reason. And when they reconvened in 2017, Martin Barr was not with them. But it just goes on. Then they have touring. Just kind of crazy.
Go back up real quick. Thought I seen.
Yeah, Phil Collins.
No, up a little more. One more.
Tony Iommi.
Yeah, that's what I thought I saw.
Yeah. Well, when he considered leaving Black Sabbath or quitting Black Sabbath, that he went with Jethro Tull for just wasn't very long. It might have been a few weeks or a month or something. It wasn't very long.
Okay.
And when was that? When did he leave?
68.
68.
68. It was before Black Sabbath even recorded anything.
That's crazy. I didn't even know that about Phil Collins.
Yeah. Yeah, Phil Collins, Don Airey. What was I was reading. Oh, no, that was Genesis that Bill Bruford was in. I thought there was somebody else. Jeffrey Hammond. I thought there was somebody else that was a big name besides Iommi and Phil Collins, but I don't see anybody. Oh, no. Clive Bunker was not a little older. He was roughly the same age as the rest of them. Oh, marriage.
Yeah, he
The
wanted to start a
downfall of
family. Yeah. Woman done took over.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
His replacement was Barrymore Barlow. How's that for a handle?
Barrymore Barlow.
Quintessentially pretty.
Barrymore Barlow.
Yeah. Apparently that was a nickname. That's crazy.
He's got
Anyway.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's an interesting name. And then Clive Bunker, you know, he's the wish.com of Clive Barker.
But this was their fourth album, and as you said, it was the last with Clive Bunker, the first with their new bassist Jeffrey Hammond, and the first album with John Evan as a full-time member, the keyboardist. He had done some keyboard work on the previous album, Benefit.
Speaking of the bassist, we watched a live performance on YouTube today of them, and I don't know if it's the same guy or not, but man, if the way he come out on stage was like, I'm trying to find a good way of wording this. If you could imagine going to like Party City and getting the hippie costume, that's what he was wearing. I mean, it looked right out of a costume party. You know, he's wearing the headband with the long hair.
Like it looked like every
I think he had
ever.
the vest on, and I mean, it was just like your stereotypical hippie that you would get like a costume of, like at the store, is how this dude was dressed.
With that, I don't know how old the concert was that you watched, but
It was, I think it was
I
from
know
the
a lot
early
of
70s.
I was going to say, I know during the time of this album, they dressed. It was quintessential hippie. I mean, especially Ian Anderson with the long goatee and the frizzed out hair and all that shit. And
it just cracked me up because I mean, we all know what hippies look like, you know, from like seeing all the other performers from the 60s, you know, like Jimi Hendrix and this and that but this dude was like what you would see if you went to Party City and picked up the costume.
It looked like Chop Top from
Chop Top from Texas Chainsaw 2.
Like,
oh yeah.
Dogs will hunt. Lick my plate, you.
It was released March 19th, 1971. So it's 51 years old. Recorded between April of 1970 and February of 1971. So kind of a spaced out recording period. Some splashes of recording a song here that would later be used on this album or what have you. Island Studios and Morgan Studios. A lot of bands have recorded there. Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin. I know Island Studios had some big names have records there as well. Led Zeppelin, of course. Eagles, Desperado, Jeff Beck Group.
Oh wow.
Dire Straits, Steve Stills, Mama Cass.
Really?
Graham Nash, P. Jones.
This is the church.
That's Island Studios. What's that?
And this is the church recording studio that they. The same. Is this the same place? The church?
No.
Because I had heard in the interview that it was a church basically converted into a studio that had, you know, different rooms.
Yes, it is.
And them and Led Zeppelin were the first ones to use this studio. And Zeppelin had the small room, they had the larger room. And the singer said that, he was just unhappy with the sound that they were getting and being in that room. They couldn't dial everything in. And he said it was the way he sounded like he wasn't fully happy with the way it came out because of the, they went down, they recorded in a different area or a different place. And then, I don't know, it just seemed like a little fiasco for him because he was trying to go for, I guess, a certain sound and he wasn't able to get it.
Right.
So much so on the same interview, he was talking about one of the songs they were recording. He had it visualized in his head what he wanted, but he couldn't, I guess, tell them. And he made the reference, it's like kind of like a Pink Floyd recording. He went in, he recorded the hi-hats and the bass drum. And then he said he did some electric and acoustic recording. And then Clive came in and he recorded the rest of the drums. And then they added, the guitarist came in and added his guitar part. So it's like pieces. He's like, it wasn't that we weren't all at the studio at the same time, but we probably were, he said, but he just couldn't explain what he wanted to them, so he just did it himself. Which is pretty impressive because I thought he just played the flute.
Yeah, he's a multi-instrumentalist.
I guess so. If he's saying he's recording drum tracks, but they had so many layers of recording that they did for at least that one song. Whatever, I don't remember the name. Do you? I don't remember.
Island Studios was the church. It was a 17th century church, and they built the studio within this church. And it was 1969. It was only a couple years old by the time they landed, them and Led Zeppelin. How iconic is that for those two albums to be recorded at the same time in the same place?
No kidding.
Just down the hall. We did another album that was like that, and it was Black Sabbath was recording, and who was with them? Who was down the hall? Was that the Eagles? Was that Hotel California?
See, I wasn't here for the Hotel California album, so I do not know.
Whoever it was recording. Black Sabbath was recording Technical Ecstasy, so that's what makes me think it was Hotel California, because that would have been 76. But yeah, that absolutely amazing that.
That's like one of those things where you wish you were a fly on the wall at that time,
Right. Just to see this thing unfolding.
History.
In both of these rooms. Released on Chrysalis and Island Records, Reprise in America, and produced by Ian Anderson, lead singer, and Terry Ellis. And that's one thing that you talk about. Jethro Tull is the uniqueness of their sound, and how you said a few minutes ago about you thought he was just a flute player, and
not to mention that he could play that flute with you would never imagine a flute being playing with like rock music.
Right. I was just going to say that he brought that to the front.
And I remember years ago when I was listening to this album, I remember because I don't remember if we like rented a video or something. I don't remember, but it was pre-YouTube, obviously. And I remember seeing him like standing on one leg, and he'd have his foot, on the inside of his knee, just
Ian Anderson trademark.
Yep.
This here in this it made a valid point about Jethro Tull has spent 40 years standing outside of generic conversations. Are they prog? Are they folk? Are they, as the Grammys once decided, at the expense of Metallica no less, heavy metal? The answer proved over decades and so many albums is that they are a little bit of everything, and that's how I always saw them. Is they're prog, but they have so many different layers and facets that they bring into the music that they put out, and you can distinguish that it's Jethro Tull no matter what, because the flute, Ian's voice, the playing. But I don't know that all their albums sound. Each album is kind of unique to itself. At least that's been my experience, especially with the earlier records. Like I said, the first couple albums I felt were a little more folky. And didn't quite have the heaviness that this album does.
What about after this album? Because I mean, you just chalk that up as them growing in their music, and seems like most bands, when they grow in their music, they change.
Right. Well, I know
worse for the better.
One thing I've learned about Ian Anderson over the years is going back to what you said about him not being happy with how things were turning out as far as during the recording process. He's very nitpicky, and I think it's exemplified in how the critics panned the album as a concept album, and he didn't like it. He said he was like adamant that it's not a concept album, and his tone seemed very pissy about it, should I say. But in my opinion, my humble opinion, sometimes it doesn't matter what your intention was. We'll just call it an accidental concept album, because there's a lot of interweavings throughout the album, both side A and side B. A lot of character building, storytelling throughout it. But I can't remember where it said it, but the distinction between side A and side B, of religion and God, and I feel like the A side is more not spiritual, but more human.
Yeah.
Kind of showing human aspects, whereas the B side is more towards the spiritual side. With songs like Hymn 43 and My God and
Wind Up.
Yeah, Wind Up. Absolutely. Now where Locomotive Breath fits in there, it's just a great song. But the A side, the character building, you have such a such a wild way to start an album with what basically amounts to a pedophile.
Yeah.
A creepy old dude watching little kids. It just, I think about that every time I listen to the song because it's a kick-ass song. But when you read into the lyrics and you're like, I don't think I like what's going on here.
What other? There was it was Night Prowler. That was it. That was similar.
Yep.
That was like real awesome, but lyrically it's and Polly, which is also, there's a lot of like really cool songs that are really disturbing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Iron Lung sounds so much like a Black Sabbath riff. Like, so much so that I actually thought it was, and I kept looking it up, like, what song is this? And I couldn't find it. And, like, it sounds like a Black Sabbath song a lot, especially the first couple minutes of it.
Which I don't know.
Which goes along with their interweaving of different sounds, you know.
Yeah.
They have like a Sabbath sound, and then you throw a flute in the mix, and then
Yeah, like
you
a
know,
soft part through the middle.
And I don't know how much of the
what's up, hero?
Band members, not so much influence, but were not related to or coalesced with band members of other bands like that, like Tony Iommi, who had a brief stint. I mean, Martin Barr is from Birmingham, so it would fit that his guitar would kind of have similar vibes to Tony. I don't know where I was going. I hate that. I should have wrote that down. I had something that was kind of relates to what you just said about sounding like Black Sabbath, and the sound. But I guess we kind of, Jim, you kind of pointed it out with the different elements coming in that they were bringing in. That's what happens when you don't write stuff down. I'd be a terrible songwriter because I'd never write stuff down and then I'd forget it.
Kind of like a comedian I like. One of his jokes was, you know, he would be in a motel or whatever, laying in bed, and he'd think of a funny joke, but the pen was on the other side of the room. So then he would have to convince himself what he thought of wasn't funny, so he didn't have to get up and get him.
Right. I guess back to the idea of the concept album with it being panned that way by critics and so forth.
Do you
the first two songs?
Would you consider?
I've always seen it. I don't know if I would say concept album.
Me personally, I don't think so.
Album, maybe.
I would say like the Tommy album was a concept album.
Right. That's an intentional. This, I just think what they were writing just happened to interweave. But I think a lot of the reason that it got that is because of the first two songs on A side. Aqualung is mentioned in Cross-Eyed Mary.
Yeah.
They're kind of a connected song. Side B, first two tracks again, they're tied together. Whether that should actually be the way it's looked at, I don't know. But I always felt that every song on here and the way it flowed, that's what I was going to say about Black Sabbath, comparing it to Black Sabbath, especially the early Black Sabbath albums, is the way it flowed. They hit you with a couple of hard hitters, and then they slowed you down in Cheap Day Return. Black Sabbath had that habit with their early records the same way. But I think each song in a certain way has a thread, a common thread, whether it be Ian's flute or Barr's playing or Clive Bunker's drumming, which is the way an album should flow.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because it's like those other albums that we listen to where it's like, this song is like the perfect opening and song for an album. And then, like you said with the Sabbath, they take you for a ride. It starts off heavy, slows down. Some bands go heavy again, slow down, then heavy. They finish heavy or finish slow. But it's like you said, it just
never mind.
It all depends on the flow of, on how the album is. I think because you're all over the place, I mean, there's been times where it's like, man, I couldn't imagine this song being track number 1 or 2, but it just so happens the good song would be you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm just talking gibberish, I think, right now. But the placement of songs,
placement's everything.
Matters,
It's gonna be the first thing you hear, which is the Eagles' Hotel California, but the best song at the start. Everything else should be like the scraps, but sometimes placement doesn't matter, like Joshua Tree, and it was random and it worked out really, really well.
Yeah,
but it depends.
I think the only time placement wouldn't matter would probably be like a punk or metal album.
I agree with that.
In a sense,
One thing,
but I guess you could, some Metallica albums placements work good too.
Yeah, like Master Puppets and having Orion as the ender, or Ride the Lightning.
I was just thinking that was Ride the Lightning with Cthulhu.
Yeah, which is a really great instrumental. It's a very slow, kind of like send you off.
So I guess I'll retract that statement and say maybe punk rock. It doesn't matter for punk rock.
And there again, even punk rock, it depends on the album. I think. I don't know. Maybe not.
Maybe older punk rock, like the Ramones and stuff like that.
Sex Pistols, I think the placement mattered pretty well on that one.
I don't know. I'll just retract that statement.
Ramones don't matter.
We're thinking about We're like,
I mean, in general, yeah, maybe.
Reel it back.
But another thing was the influences Ian Anderson used from Roy Harper and Bert Jansch, and you listen to it, you can, if you've ever heard any Roy Harper stuff, you can hear the sounds, the overtones bleeding through, the influences bleeding through on it. I haven't listened to too much Roy Harper, but I know some of the stuff, and I know there's some influences from him through Led Zeppelin as well. But he was, I don't know that Roy was as much an influence as he was a contemporary what's the word I want to, I don't know, not a, well, yeah, contemporary influence. Because he was around the same time as them doing his thing and creating a sound wall to bounce off of. We want to talk about the
album cover.
Move on to the album cover.
Yeah.
I will bring up. I have the. Let's see. Where's it at?
Burton Silverman. I guess the original cover art was by Burton Silverman, featured as a watercolor portrait of a long-haired bearded man in shabby clothes. But he said the idea came from a photograph Anderson's wife took of a homeless man, and later felt that it would have been better to use the photograph rather than commission the painting.
Yeah.
Silverman claims it was a self-portrait, but we don't know if that's true or not. They paid $1,500 for the painting, which was a lot of money in that time.
Yeah.
They also state that there was no written contract. The artist says that the art was only licensed for the use of the album cover, not for merchandising. So I guess they might have used it on T-shirts and whatnot. Original artwork for both the front and back covers are missing. They were apparently stolen from a London hotel room. Possible robbery, office robbery. The original artwork for the interior gatefold painting was not taken during the robbery and is held by Terry Ellis. Do you have a picture? There it is.
I'd go to say when
I think it's a cool cover, man. I really like this cover.
I do too.
It kind of, to me, with the painting, it kind of makes me think of the old like medieval guy sitting in the dang little alleyway asking for change.
And that's funny. I think it was the third song.
Yeah.
Sound like a medieval song, like medieval festival music. I think it was the third one.
Yeah, if he wasn't wearing the trench coat, you would think he was in the medieval times asking for shillings. Can you spare a shilling, sir? Can you spare a shilling?
When I first saw it, I thought it was a portrait of was it Ian?
The singer?
Yeah, the singer.
Ian Anderson, yeah. I always tended to make that correlation too. Because like I say, he always had kind of a disheveled look. Not so much.
But he's got his hand buried under that trench coat, getting ready to pull that flute out.
Yeah.
That would have been a much better album cover. Him holding the flute and on one.
But I really like this. I really like this album cover.
Yeah.
I was trying earlier today when I was listening to it on YouTube. I was trying to make sense of the sign that's behind them.
I don't know if I can.
Don't know if there's any story on that, or if it means anything, or if it's just, I don't know.
Spend.
Christian skiing.
Spend Christmas skiing with mixed part. I can't read the rest of it. Interesting.
It's got to be something subliminal there.
Yeah.
It's a cool cover. I like it. I dig that cover a lot.
I want to share.
I kind of like that cover idea better than them doing the photograph.
I would like to see the original photograph.
That's the back cover. Oh, come on. Where'd it go? Bring it up there. The track listing. And it's like he's just kind of chilling there. This really looks like Ian Anderson, I think. Especially back in the day. But I always liked the words that were like Bible verse printed on. It said in the beginning man created God, and in the image of man created he him. And I remember reading that and going, wow, that's powerful. Because when you think about it, I mean, if you really think about how deep that statement is and sounds, it kind of turns things upside down.
Doesn't really go into too much detail on the front and back cover. Like, I know he's chilling on the back, but like, what's he technically doing on the front? Because, like I said, to me, it looks like he's asking for change.
Yeah.
Maybe he got some change and he went to a local bath, and I like it though. It's nice.
Maybe he's just wiping the snot on the inside of his coat. That's terrible. What was done? I want to know what his thought process was.
Yeah, it's definitely
what he was writing.
You know, his snot's running down his nose.
Yeah. Greasy fingers smearing shabby clothes. And I'm not going to say the rest because it's kind of no.
How'd this do? Do we have numbers here on the chart?
It eventually went on to sell 7 million records. It's their most successful record to date. And I just saw something here that I thought was kind of cool. Steve Harris, the bass player for Iron Maiden, has called Aqualung a classic album, lauding its fantastic playing, fantastic songs, attitude, and vibe. And of course, Maiden covered Cross-Eyed Mary for the B-side to The Trooper when it was released. It made it to on the charts. It was number 7 on the Billboard 200. And Hymn 43, the single, cracked the Hot 100 at 91, peaked at 91. And it was also a top 5 album in, let's see, 6 countries, including the UK, which is where Jethro Tull is from. So stands to reason they should, in their own country, be a top 5 artist. Original in 1989, the original album sales. So 18 years into the life of the album, they were declared or rated triple platinum on the album. And I don't know if other albums. I was going to mention that too, as far as Ian's disdain for calling it a concept album. The follow-up album, Thick as a Brick, was done intentionally as a concept album out of spite. So that's why I kind of think he was very nitpicky. I don't know what the chart success. Thick as a Brick was a number 1. It peaked at number 1. So this kind of, I guess you could call it maybe
album,
this.
Thick as a Brick, was that after this one?
That was the follow up to this album. And it peaked at number 1, but it has only been certified. I don't think it's platinum. I think it's only a gold album. Critical reception. Oh no, it is platinum. Yeah. So in a way, Aqualung, I guess you could call it maybe the springboard to for their career,
their success. Because did they have much success before this?
I don't believe so. Benefit, I believe, was moderately successful. That was their 3rd album. They had a single Inside. That was a top 20 album that peaked at number 11. So they had already had some success. And it was that was their first million selling record. But I think I'm going to say Aqualung brought them more into prominence as far as a band during the 70s anyway.
Yeah.
Charts. This was the songs, which we kind of already broke them down, but I don't. It's too difficult for me to pick one. But if I have to pick one, it's going to be Locomotive Breath every time.
Yeah, that I really like that one and Cross-Eyed Mary.
Yeah.
Oh, show.
Yeah, I agree. Cross-eyed Mary.
What do you think Raul would have liked?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't remember. Did he say if he had previously heard this?
I don't remember.
I don't think he had.
No.
I don't think he had.
No, he didn't. He didn't hear this one.
We'll have to get his take on it the next time. Just that, and I've seen Locomotive Breath covered by other bands, and it always, especially if it's done well,
those songs hold up. I think over the year, because maybe that's why that they were people was considering a concept. But me, I think they still hold up quite well. There's parts of the album, like for me, like the middle of the album, it's kind of starts like this, then it goes into a valley, and then kind of back up.
I'd say the middle of the album really bleeds together.
Yeah, and that was what he was kind of complaining about too. He's like, man, this album kind of, after the first two songs, it's like the album kind of bleeds together where
It's got like
it kind of all sounds the same.
it's got like Tommy syndrome.
Tommy's.
And when we went to go, it's funny too. I like Cross-Eyed Mary, and like when we went to go re-listen to the album, that song came on, and I thought he restarted it over Aqualung. I'm like, hey, did you just start this over? He's like, see, I told you, it all sounds the same. But overall, for me, like I said backstage, I would give this album I was giving it a 70 30%, 70 is it's a good album.
I
It's not, besides the 3 songs on here that this album's most known for, there's nothing really else memorable to me.
No.
After all the years that I've gone without listening to it, but none of those songs, like when I heard them, I'm like, oh yeah, there's that, except for the 3, Aqualung, Cross-Eyed Mary, and
it's weird
Locomotive Breath.
because all the songs, if you were listening to them like one a piece, it all sounds so different, but when they're all together, they all sound the same. When they're like such an experimental and different thing, how they bleed together so easily.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, it's me personally, I think it's a good album.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's other.
Dude, I'm still riding the Bob Dylan wave, dude.
Yeah,
Me too.
I was going to ask about that.
I am still riding that wave, man. He wrote down like all the shows we've done with you, and I looked at the list. I'm like, man, I really like this one, but dude, Bob Dylan, Highway 61 Revisited is my favorite so far that we've done.
I think that album, probably most out of all the ones we've done, belongs on the list the most for greatest album of all time. That you can listen to it weeks and weeks on end, it's still.
And it could be just because
awesome.
It's new to us, I wasn't raised around Dylan or any of that, so I mean it's new to me. So I think that's why we're still riding high of it. But like I said before, though, this album, it's good, but it ain't no Highway 61.
This was number 56 is where this was in this list. Now it has, let's see here. It's got several different ratings. All going from basically 4 to 5 stars.
If we're doing a 5-star rating, I would give this a 2.7.
I'd give it I'd give it a 2.8.
That's a hot take.
I think 3.5. I think is nice, balanced for 3.
Accolades. Number 22 on the Jazz and what the heck? Paz and Jop. So I'm assuming that's, what do they call that, an anagram? Jazz and pop. 100 greatest rock albums of all time. It was number 30. Number 337. So basically, well, not a little bit left of center, right of center on the 500 greatest albums of all time. 100 best-selling albums of the 70s. It was at number 90. 40 cosmic rock albums from Q. It was number 7. It's on the list. The 100 or 1,001 albums to hear before you die, which I agree. It's definitely
sure.
should be one that everybody should hear.
For sure.
Guitar solos, the 20 greatest guitar solos of all time. It was number 20. And 100 greatest prog albums of all time. Number 43.
That's interesting. So that's interesting because
list.
That's only info for this album, correct? Because I'm just curious on like guitar solos, what the Deep Purple album would have brought, because there was some mighty good solos on that album too that
20 greatest
that I think was more memorable than some of the solos in this one.
Greatest solos of all time. Putting that number 20, I think that might be a bit of a hot take. See how many amazing guitar solos there are.
That's true. What is that? Guitarist. Well, this was guitar player. The 20 greatest guitar solos of all time. Now this is a different list because number 20 is Gary Moore, Still Got the Blues. Metallica, Fade to Black. Steely Dan, Kid Charlemagne. Cream, Crossroads. Eric Johnson, Cliffs of Dover. I tend to agree with that one because if you've never heard Cliffs of Dover, it belongs on a list like this. Phenomenal song. Prince, Purple Rain. Deep Purple, Highway Star. Guns N' Roses, Sweet Child of Mine. God, I hate that song. Ozzy Osbourne, Crazy Train. Michael Jackson, Beat It. The Beatles, While My Guitar Weeps.
I could agree. Yeah, that definitely belongs. That's like an all-timer.
Chicago, and I agree with this one as well. 25 or 6-4. Leonard Skinner and Freebird. Dire Straits, Sultans of Swing.
I'm sorry. I think
Hendrix
Freebird
all-
should be in the top 5, personally.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty close. It's number 8. Hendrix, All Along the Watchtower. Eagles, Hotel California. Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin, Stairway. Whatever. Van Halen, Eruption. Oh my God. And Pink Floyd, Comfortably Numb. I don't know about that one. Comfortably Numb.
I don't think so. People don't air guitar that solo, I don't think. Not like they do, say, Stairway to Heaven or...
Dave Gilmour's had some better solos, too. I think. Doesn't really matter because that's not the right list anyway.
So you got no Dimebag Darrell on that list? Come on now.
I didn't see an Iron Maiden solo on there.
Was Sadness on there?
Bullshit. That's a criminal.
No, they had a Crazy Train, no Sabbath.
Oh, Crazy Train, yeah. Randy Rhoads.
I think I just found it. 20 greatest. Because right there's Jethro Tull. So I'm going to share this. Damn it, get out of here. Them and their friggin' pop-ups.
Looking for a hot date? Check locally.
Huh? Check. What? Aqualung. Cancel.
And that's for the song Aqualung? The solo?
Yep.
Okay.
Where's the rest of the list?
That's it. Top 20. Aqualung.
I got all 20 spots.
Oh,
What the hell?
they're all ads. Maybe they're like 30.
Oh, wait. It's got a next button.
Manic Street Preachers.
I've never even heard of that.
Can't say that I have either.
Might have to check it out. Bookmark. Beat it.
I could agree with that one for sure.
Yeah. Gary Moore. Led Zeppelin 3. Since I've Been Loving You. Okay. I agree with that one.
Dire Straits, Sultan Swing, yeah.
Hotel California. Yeah, because I got to give Don Felder credit where credit's due. That was an amazing guitar
Oh,
solo.
for sure. For sure.
I do quite like that song, but the rest of the album blows. It stinks.
Stanks. A tanky. Steve Vai. Makes
For
sense.
the love of God.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I'm going to get shut down. Those are
Hurt.
naked chicks. That was Hendrix for sure.
Megadeth.
Yes.
Which one?
That is my
Right.
favorite Megadeth song. Love that song.
Freebird. Led Zeppelin. Stairway to Heaven.
Stairway. Dream Theater. Okay. John Petrucci, underrated. Oh, back-to-back ones. Petrucci is an underrated guitarist. I don't think he gets the recognition he deserves. There's Comfortably Numb again. November Rain, really? I take that back on Sweet Child of Mine. I hate November Rain.
Yeah.
When I hear the opening piano to that,
I
I
think
skip
Paradise
it.
City's way worse.
I can still listen to Sweet Child of Mine, but November Rain, I can't do that one either.
Yeah.
Paradise City.
Paradise City's my all-time,
Paradise City's the plague.
the one I really hate hearing.
God, that song
Alter
sucks so
Bridge.
bad.
That's interesting. That's it.
That's it. Yep.
We should make our own list. Make it better.
Make it better. Anyway.
So what did you think overall? You liked the album, yeah?
Yeah, I was a big fan of this album. Big fan of Jethro Tull. Having not heard it until I was about 18, 19, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I was
And-
probably around the same age, between 18 and 21, I would say, somewhere right around there.
I kind of wish.
As a matter of fact, it was before 21. I was 21, so yeah, about 18, 19.
I kind of wish I still remembered how to. I don't know if I can get my fingers to work right, but I kind of wish I could still remember how to do it, how to play it. Because it was just the opening at
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know why he got to I like the B side a lot better than the A side. I do like the title track, obviously, and Cross-Eyed Mary, Mother Goose, but especially hearing that at a time where I was questioning things. You go through that phase, you question things, and him 43 really struck a tone with me. And then, like I said, I read that kind of like quasi Bible verse that they had in there. It's like, son of a bitch, just makes a hell of a lot of sense. But not that I'm not saying, people should go down that road and question things the same way, but it's probably, and I'm not blaming the album, it's probably one of the reasons I'm an agnostic, because it's like there's something's going on. There's something there. There's something up there. But I think it's the way it was defined. It's the way it's been defined. I don't know that that's correct. But you get to locomotive breath and wind up and wind up, however it's pronounced, and you're like, what a stellar way to end this record.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a locomotive that, it's perfect. It sounds like a train coming down the tracks, just pounding the steel down the tracks. It's like, I remember listening to that song for the first time and going, how how did they do that? You know, and this, I don't. I'm gonna take a look, see if this tells us anything. Composition. It was recorded in an unusual manner for the time. The track was pieced together from overdubs. Okay, that makes sense. This is what you were talking about, where they were recorded separately.
Yeah.
He did his normal flute vocals, and then added the bass drum, hi-hat. Okay.
Yeah, this is it. See, I never caught the name of what song he was talking about, but yeah, it makes sense now.
I'm like I said, I wanted to listen to the interview again, and I didn't get a chance to, but I'm remembering him talking about that, because when I listened to it, at the time I was working overnight at McDonald's, and when I listened to it, it was kind of like background, but I was hearing what he was saying while I was cleaning.
Yeah.
And now that we're talking about it, I remember him talking about the build up and the piecing together of the song. Yeah, everything, all the separate recordings were then overdubbed together. So that makes sense how they were able to do that. God, I love that song. And that was recorded December 70 to February 71. So that was one of the later tracks to be recorded, which makes sense if that goes into him not being happy with the way things were going. When was him 43 was recorded at the same time. That doesn't have as much information on it either. That's interesting. Yeah. Described the song as a blues for Jesus about the glory seekers who use his name as an excuse for a lot of unsavory things. Which goes back to what I was saying about starting to question.
Right.
You know, it's kind of led me on a different path. And I remember hearing that line, the glory seekers use his name in vain. And it's like, you know, they're freaking right. There's a lot of hypocrites.
Sure enough. All they used is said the song can briefly be heard in the scene in the film Jumanji. Interesting.
And
it says the song is used by Ring of Honor to open up their live events for wrestling.
Really? That's amazing.
The song was used as background music for the Road So Far recap in the first episode of Supernatural season 8. And a full intro and a few lines of the song with no other sound accompanied Otto's burial in Fargo TV series. This is Locomotive.
I do remember Fargo. Yeah, I remember that.
Interesting.
It is crazy.
Yeah, it's a good song. So what do we got next show? Are we ready to go there, or we still got more to talk about on this one?
I think we we've got. That's something I was gonna look up. Kind of a side note. Chrysalis Records. The record label, they seem to not quite as well known as some of the other ones like Capitol or Geffen or those, but they seem to have a lot of records released on that label back then. So it's kind of peculiar that the Chrysalis isn't a lot bigger than or more well known. Because
are they still around?
It doesn't say defunct.
Yeah, it just says founded in 68, 54 years ago. Must be. They still got a website.
A lot of distributors. Capital, Geffen, Island, Virgin, Parlophone, which I don't know. Is Parlophone?
Yeah, they because they got stuff going into the 2020s. Wow, they got a long list of acts. Pat Benatar.
Oh shit, yeah.
Arrested Development.
Ian Anderson's solo stuff.
Blondie.
Armored Saint.
Mickey Dolenz.
Blodwyn Peg.
Joan Jett. Billy
Generation
Idol.
X. That's Billy Idol.
Deborah Harry.
Man. Yeah. Roy Harper.
Yep.
Wow.
Huey Lewis and the News.
So a lot of big names, but maybe because it's a UK label,
maybe
it doesn't seem to us that it's as big as it obviously should be.
UFO.
And maybe reality it is as big as we think it should be.
Oh, Stiff Little Fingers.
Stiff.
I love those guys.
I love that name.
That's a good band, man. I like those guys. They got like that oi me. It's kind of like oi sounding. And they've been around for a long time too, and they still tour.
All right. Again, this album was brought to us via TMH 9.8. I need to reach out. I need to reach out to him and Metalheads. I still have not done that. I'm a slacker. I apologize. I can't get this back up there. What the heck's going on here? And I should have just left it that. We will get this broke out. Uh-oh. Where is it? Right there it is. I believe 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9 albums to go.
Feeling pretty good about this next one, Donnie. Feeling real good about it.
Well, cross thy fingers. Clicky click.
Big money, and
oh! I think Unruly might have went to bed, but that's his album.
I do not know.
Axis Full is Love.
I do not know this
What's
album. I don't know this album. I don't know this band. Unless I heard it, I just don't know.
It's Jimi Hendrix.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I've never heard like whole Jimi Hendrix albums.
So Axis Bold as Love.
I think the Jimi Hendrix Experience is like the only album I think I've heard like all the way through.
Axis, I believe, memory serves me right. Axis, his second album. Shit, I can't remember. That's terrible. Axis is his second album. Songs like Little Wing, If Six Was Nine, Castles Made of Sand, which is probably, we'll save that. We'll save that for that.
I've heard a few. One of my favorite Hendrix songs is on this album. Then.
Awesome album. I'm going to have to reach out to Unruly and see if he wants me to send him some books or what he wants me to do. But he'll be happy to know that this will be the next album that we're going to do. His pick, his number. It was number 69. Much to his chagrin, being that far up on the list, and I agreed with him. But when you deal with rankings, and that's why I hate just make a list. Don't number them.
Yeah, I agree with that big time. Because there's controversy everywhere you go if you start numbering stuff.
I mean, because look at
just like these guitar solos we just talked about.
Look at this and you guys' reaction to Highway 61. I believe it was, what did I say? It was number 86 or something like that.
Well,
I believe so. Yeah.
Was it 86 or was it in the 30s?
And let me guess, did they put White Snake is below that
or above it?
Like where's
what? No,
because I personally don't think some of these albums or a few of these albums we've heard
they don't belong.
I wouldn't classify them as greatest of all time because they had one hit that just sold a lot of albums.
Which is
White Snake was number 83, so it wasn't that far from it.
Sure,
but I think once you get past 20, you're just kind of throwing mud at the wall.
Yeah.
Which some of the albums that are in the 20s on this are, I mean, I know Raul is perfectly fine with Dark Side being at number 1, but then, I mean, they followed up with Led Zeppelin 4, then Led Zeppelin 2, Sgt. Pepper, Wish You Were Here, Pink Floyd, Appetite at number 6, which doesn't hurt my feelings, Back in Black at number 7, Abbey Road at number 8, Highway to Hell at number 9, and Led Zeppelin's first album at number 10. So that's kind of the
three spots.
Yeah.
10. I think if you're gonna do a list like that, don't go past like 2 per band, because when you get like the whole Beatles discography in the top 100, that's kind of pushing it. I just think leave some.
I agree, because I like the Beatles, but there's a couple of those records that don't belong in the top 100. So next episode or next time, Axis Bold as Love, Jethro Tull. Jethro Tull was tonight. Jimi Hendrix, I must be getting tired. Jimi Hendrix, Axis Bold as Love next time. Tonight was a classic album, Jethro Tull, Aqualung. Go check it out if you haven't heard it. If you're watching this on the rewind, thank Kyle and Rolly and Cody for popping in tonight. And Raul, we missed you. Hopefully it will be all back together. Looky there. In the meantime, get out there and listen to some music.
Yes, sir.